Hey Nippers, it's me, Wild Neptune, here to bring you another video about Epic 7, and it's gonna be a pretty important one because some of you guys have a very important decision to make. You see, in a few days, there'll be a rerun of the Guilty Gear collab with limited time units that, I quote, might not come back, are going to be in the game for a limited period of time. However, right now, there's a very good hero that has a banner. And you're probably wondering, what should I do with all my resources? Hopefully, this video will help guide you through your decision-making process. However, before all of that, make sure you smash that subscribe button and hit the like button and comment. Also follow me at Twitch at twitch.tv/wildneptune. Let's get into it. So, Guilty Gear. It is a collab, and we'll go over each of the heroes you can get, starting off with Dizzy. Now, you see here, my Dizzy isn't geared. Now, the banner will work the same way as the previous limited banner. The triple banner, that is. Dizzy, Elfelt, and Biken will be on the banner. They will have an even chance to be pulled. There is no pity. However, there is a coin shop, and you get 1 coin per summon. And at 120 coins, you can buy a hero. And it doesn't matter how many heroes you pulled in between then. It's just straight up currency that you use. Also, Soul will be in the game. You get 1 copy for free during the login event, and you can buy dupes of him for 20 coins each. On top of that, of course, there are 3 limited artifacts that are going to be in the pool also, and we're going to assume that Portrait of the Saviors, which is a good artifact, will be in the game too to farm. We don't know how it's going to be in the game yet, but we're assuming it is. But let's get to Dizzy here. Dizzy, for a while, has been considered to be the best of the 3 units, but she has fallen off a little bit. In PvE, she is very strong, but more of a unit that I'd say helps if you are underpowered and isn't optimal for a lot of content in PvE. So if you are a reasonably strong account or feel like you're strong, Dizzy might not have the most mileage in PvE for you, especially if you were playing when, say, something like Seaside Bologna was around and you have her. An example is that in Wyvern, Dizzy is considered lackluster for Wyvern despite having debuffs. So her 3rd skill is, has 3 debuffs. Her S2 has a debuff extension and a pushback, and her S1 is an AoE stun. Her damage is so low that she's more of a hindrance than a help a lot of the times in certain content. In PvP, World Arena at least, when she was first introduced into World Arena, she was decent. But with the advent of teams that are really good against AoE, with stuff like LR Crow, G Purgus, she hasn't really seen much usage. She is used, but she isn't an omnipresent force like she would have been maybe if RTA was in the game, say, 2 years ago. In normal arena and Guild Wars, she is good. Again, not necessary. All around, she's a solid hero that has a dangerous kit where if possible, I'd say she is worth getting. She's not in the best spot right now, but she has a lot of potential. Again, her skills are very dangerous, and her gear requirement, honestly, is not that high overall. Let's move on to the next hero, which will be Baiken. Baiken is a thief, and typically she's going to be used to one-shot Banji 13. Now you might think to yourself, how important is it to one-shot a hunt? It depends on the hunt. Banji is one of the slower hunts to run. I would say that, like, speed-wise, it's maybe a little bit slower than A13 overall. Maybe the same speed. And if you get into endgame and you want to do PvP, farming Banshee is going to be something you'll want to do. Resist, counter, and lifesteal sets have become more important as more units that want to utilize them have come out. And sometimes you want to farm them on hunt days, right? And you have a limit of time to get as much done as possible. And if your runs are taking like 5 minutes every time, well, you're not being very efficient. As somebody who personally has put off making a one-shot Banshee team for a long time, and then I raised my bike in order to do it, there is no reason not to do it if you can, and you're at the point in the game where you feel like it's a good thing for you to do. There are other units that can one-shot Banshee, like I believe Green Fiend, Irvalin, but none of them have the ease of doing it like Baiken can. You don't even need these stats aren't even that great, and you don't even need these stats to do it. In terms of other content, honestly, she's not really used anywhere else. She has very, very limited usage in PvP. She can come in and out of viability, and I use viability loosely because in about the last, I don't know, all of last season in RTA, I never saw her once. But I do know that there are a couple players who might bring her out on occasion. Just know that she's typically only going to be used for Banshee 13. So if you want a unit that is specifically for that piece of content, but the best at it, Baiken is, someone you might want to consider. The last one is gonna be Elfelt. Now, Elfelt here, right now, is not that good. That's because, well, she's not buffed yet. She is gonna get buffed though, when the collab hits. So, some changes gonna happen is that instead of buffing crit chance, this will buff attack instead for the whole party. On top of that, this will now dispel 2 buffs and do it before the attack, which means it ignores evasion checks and elemental disadvantage. So if Remnant Violet is there, well, it gets rid of his evasion. On top of that, it gets rid of, it bypasses stuff like Dreamblade. Also, the Soul Burn is ignore ER, so bring a mage with you. Well, you can Soul Burn this and guarantee that it puts the enemy to sleep. On top of that, because of her sleep on the S3, it means that she doesn't really have to raise crit, because hitting a slept enemy will always result in a critical hit. Now, right now, her use cases are none, because the damage is too low. However, that's going to change, because on top of that, her damage is being buffed, attack buff to the party, all that stuff, very good. she feels kind of like Operator Secret after the buffs, who also gives attack buff, and, has like an extra turn feature. She doesn't have the bonus to barriers, but she does give a defense break. That's on AoE. And other nifty things like that. It's hard to tell how useful she'll be. I feel like she'll be a specific unit that, if you have a playstyle that facilitates her kit, will be really good. But if you don't, she might sit in the bench for a while. Potential-wise, though, in PvP, she definitely has, I believe, the highest peak now out of all three of them. But she basically does nothing in PvE, because in PvE, of course, you're not gonna be able to control a lot of her skills, and having a low crit chance is probably gonna hurt you without agency over what you're doing. Again, it's speculation there, but Elfelt, really good PvP character, potentially. Now, all that said, let's hop into the current banner, which is Tamarin. So, Tamarin is the best PvE healer in the game. She is, really good. She is the best in slot for multiple expeditions, usable in A13, also B13 if you don't have a one-shot. She is good in Raid. She is excellent in Abyss. She is usable in normal arena at like lower to mid ranks. Just a very solid unit. Both of my accounts, main accounts, have them. Well, main and my main alt account have her, and she really helps out a lot. I use her even to this day on my main account all the time. Smilegate likes putting out Tamarin right before major units come out. I actually predicted this would happen when they announced Guilty Gear a few weeks ago. And honestly, it's hard. It's a hard choice. You can get by without her. Now, is it going to be harder? Yes, of course it is. But it is possible to do PvE without Tamarin. That being said, I would say if somehow you have 3 pities worth of resources, so Skystones and bookmarks that add up to 1,800 bookmarks, and you don't really care about saving your Skystones, you can probably risk going with Tamarin. But if you have less than that, honestly, even if the collab characters are more niche than Tamarin is, they're still collab characters, and I would still favor getting them, because Tamarin will be rerun. You might also get her, like, randomly in a banner, or like, a daily pull, or like one of these ticket things that they give out. I don't have one, but you know what I mean. My alt account has multiple Tamarins that it just pulled, like, randomly from, like, daily pulls and stuff like that. So, not saying that you should count on that happening, but it is possible to happen, and getting random collab characters, well, is not. On top of that, there are other things besides heroes you might want to get during the collab banner, and those are artifacts. So there are 3 artifacts that will be popping up. The first one is Necro and Udine. It is a mage artifact, and what it does is, after using AoE skill, it increases the CR of the caster only on their turn, so no counter or dual attack shenanigans. Honestly, it's a good artifact, right? However, Mage artifacts are dominated by crown, book, and that's it. I think it is really hard to use mage artifacts that are not crown or book, and some occasionally, like a couple of them, like say Dingus Orb or the Fairy Tale one will be used too, but mage artifacts have to be very specific or very broken to compete, and that's the problem. Like, this is a good artifact, has a good skill, but it's not broken, so nobody uses it. Another artifact, though, that does see use is Torn Sleeve. Now, Torn Sleeve is a artifact. What it does, it gives a chance to bleed for 2 turns after a single attack. One of the bleeds, I believe, I forget if it's on Torn Sleeve or it's on Biken's skill. But something about it, I think it's on Biken's, something about it where one of them ignores ER. Something like that. Even at plus 15, getting 1 copy, the 75% chance to land a bleed is pretty good. Right? It is a good artifact, especially for the one-shot. So a lot of Karens that are being run in the Wyvern one-shot will be running a Torn Sleeve to get that extra debuff on to help the Sigrid kill the Wyvern. My Karen that I used in Banji one-shot also uses Torn Sleeve, and sometimes it'll push my damage up, a little bit more to help me get that kill if I don't land any bleeds with Biken. Again, like Biken, it is pretty much only going to be used for that specific case, because in PvP, a lot of units are going to have immunity on the first turn, and you won't get the benefit of something like Torn Sleeve anyway. But if you're concerned about getting that one-shot done, Torn Sleeve is a decent artifact to have. The last artifact, though, which is the most important one, I believe, is Miscon Fee. Here it is. A Miscon Fee is an Upvolt artifact, and it is a ranger artifact that gives your S1 a chance to defense break. It is best in slot for a unit like Cerise, and is generally good for rangers that don't want to use Guiding Light. It is very good. Defense break is a very strong debuff. It will help a lot of your offensive teams. On top of that, even units with like relatively low attacking power, if you go with like a couple of like ticks into frenzy, the damage is going to become substantial at that point in RTA. Overall, I would definitely try to get a copy of this artifact, if not 2. Remember that the artifacts will be in the artifact shop for 240 dust. On top of that, you can buy 1 copy of them from the coin shop when it pops up for 100 coins each. And that's really going to be it for this. Hopefully, my explanations and the use cases of each of the artifacts and heroes are going to help bring you to a reasonable decision about what you should do when the collab hits in a few days. As always, I am Wild Neptune. It's been a good one. Nep out.